Welcome to Introduction to Learning Express PrepStep, which is a database that the library offers. We gave this presentation at the beginning of the day today, and throughout that presentation, we received a lot of really good questions. So I'm re-recording this session now to incorporate those questions so that hopefully it addresses any concerns that you might have about this database. But if you do find that at some point you have a question that we don't address, we can't find an answer to, by all means, reach out. You can use the email address I have here, or you can call. Whatever works best for you. We're happy to help you and support you as you help and support your students with this database. Let's go ahead and get started. We'll talk first about the database itself, what it contains, talk about how you locate it. We'll look through some of the materials. There are a lot of materials, so we won't be able to get through everything, but we'll look at the big picture things. We'll address a special circumstance, and then I'll provide some contact information. This presentation is really meant for faculty, but of course, students can get help at any point with the database just by reaching out to the library, and we'll provide one-to-one tutorials where they can even stop into the library and say, hey, I want help with this database, and we will sit down and work with them so that they feel comfortable using it. Learning Express and PrepStep provide access to a variety of practice tests that can be very relevant for students that are either transitioning into a new career or transitioning into a new academic experience. So there's T's, SATs, GEDs, a U.S. citizenship test, and a lot more. The T's practice test currently is version 6, but is being updated, and we'll let folks know when that update has been made. The recording of this is taking place in late June. We don't have a deadline for when the T's test will be updated, but I'll say that when it is, we will reach out. And so if you're watching this several months from now, hopefully we'll have been updated by then, but by all means, feel free to reach out to the library to get the latest information on where the T's practice tests are and where they are in that process of update. This also provides access to a lot of interactive tutorials and ebooks that can be helpful for study skills and academic skills that students may just want a refresher on. To locate the database, you will go to the library's website, look under the Databases tab, and then select A to Z listing, and then select L for Learning Express and PrepStep. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. We'll locate the database, and then we'll start to navigate that database. So you just need to go to the library's homepage, which you can see I've got pulled up here. And we'll start by first going to the Databases tab, which is for us right here in the middle. It's along the separate tabs with the Sum and Discovery tool. You'll click the Database tab here, A to Z listing. You'll see all databases, A to Z. That's going to drop down when you click it. So click on that, and when it drops down, you'll click the letter L. The page will jump down to the appropriate section, and you'll see right here, Learning Express PrepStep. One really great thing about the databases that we have listed here is that, as you can see, it's got a section underneath it that describes what is included. Now, obviously, this is a database that has a lot of information, so it doesn't cover every single thing that's available in the database, but it hits the big points, and that will help the student better understand, does this meet their need, or is this something that maybe is not as relevant for them right now? Once you have decided that this is the best database for you, you click on Learning Express PrepStep. So we'll jump right into the database, as you can see here. The most effective way of using this is to actually create an account. So the student can create an account and then log into that account whenever they need to return to their tutorials or their tests. All of that will be saved for them as they work through whatever activity that they have started on. So you'll see up here, sign in and register. If you already have an account, or if the student already has an account, they can log in and go ahead and get started. For students that are new and need to register, click the register button right here. You'll see the institution is already selected for you, so you're good to go. The student doesn't need to change anything there. And then the student will then answer just a few questions. Are they a European Union citizen? First name, last name, email address, and then a password. It'll ask for student ID and course number. They don't need to fill that in. That is not information that is required. And so they can just fill in their name and email address and password and then register. We're going to go ahead and log in because I already have an account. So I'm going to go ahead and put my email address in here as well as my password. And then I'll click log in. And you will see here, I've pulled up my center that's going to be blank for a student that hasn't ever created this account before or used this database before. Because I've been playing around in it, I've got a lot of different things already started. But you can see that if a student starts a test, it's separated from maybe a micro lesson that they're taking or a flashcard that they're using. So it's very well organized. And students will then be able to either delete or remove materials from here. They can download materials. They can look at what they have already downloaded. So this is a great opportunity for students to pick up where they left off. So a lot of this stuff doesn't have to be done all in one sitting, which can sometimes be very stressful. So we're going to go to the home page. Right here is the tab for that. We'll click on home. You will see here, there's a search bar up here. This is a great way of finding what you're looking for. So we'll come back to this in just a moment, but I did want to point out that a lot of this information is organized in a very logical way, labeled clearly: core English skills, college success skills, ACT and SAT prep, high school equivalency center. There's a lot of information here that you can have your students look through. It'll tell you a little bit about what's underneath there, but if the student, for example, wants to know more about career preparation, they can click on that, and then the drop-down menu will appear so that students can better see what is underneath the career prep experience. Then they can decide, oh, I want to select prepare for nursing exams. And then that will give them the opportunity to explore a variety of different resources. As you can see here, here's the TEAS practice test. Here is the NETLEX RN tests. These are all practice exams, and you'll see it's for a lot of different fields. They can also practice core English skills, so you'll see there's sections they can focus on. Some of them are more specific and some are more general. That's under the college library section. Under the public library section, you're going to see some of the same things like career preparation, prepare for college, adult core skills. It really is just a difference in audience. The public library content is going to be a little bit more focused on people who might be using it as a public library resource. And then for the college library resource, it may have a different audience. So students might be more likely to use those materials. So it's going to be a little bit more focused on that type of audience. The students can use whichever section that they like and explore whatever materials they want. That's just the organization of this particular database. If, for example, a student isn't thinking, oh, I'm looking for the TEAS guide. I'm going to look under career preparation and then go to the nursing exam. That might not be a logical path for them. And that makes sense. They may just only know, I got to take the TEAS test. That's fantastic. They can use that information to find what they need. So they could, of course, look here, but if they just know they need a TEAS test, they can just type in TEAS and that will come up. That test will come up and then they can decide which one they would like to use. Notice here, I get tests, tutorials, micro lessons, ebooks. So there's lots of different things I can explore. They could do that with pretty much any concept that they have. If they have an idea of what they're looking for, that search bar can be very useful in just going directly to that material. Now, admittedly, they might be a little overwhelmed by all the information. That is something that they might reach out to you for. They might look for support from you to help them find what they need. By all means, if you have some questions or if you want to practice looking for materials, feel free to reach out to the library. I would be happy to do an individual tutorial for you or your student just to help you feel more comfortable as you search for the materials. So a student can then click on the test that they want to take, and it will tell them a little bit about the test, and it will tell them also some information about how they can take the test. So this is obviously just a practice test, but it will tell them what it covers, how to take it, how to change their answer, if the test is scored. It'll tell them some details like how long the test will run for, and then they can choose a test mode. So simulations can be very similar to the actual test itself. There will be a timer that will be enforced. A practice test is going to provide some explanations. After the test is complete, it is timed, but it's not going to be enforced in that way. A learner is a test that is going to help the student study at the same time as they take the test. So it really moves downward in the sense of experience level. Simulation is that really high experience. Practice is a little bit more of a learning experience. And then learner is that full learning experience where you don't have to worry about the pressure of the time. You can just go through the test at your own pace and experience your learning however works best for you. And when the student is ready to take the test, they can click Start Test. And then the test time remaining, again, it's not being enforced because I'm on the practice test. I can then click through and answer the questions and then go to the next right here. I'm going to point out a couple of different things on these tests. You have a notepad that the student can add new notes and just remind themselves, oh, remember to read all of the details. Or if they think, oh, you know, I really think with this question, it would help me if I remembered to take notes as I go, or to think about certain ideas when reading for our main idea, whatever the case might be. And then we can cancel that. And then they can also finish the test later. They can save the test, they can close without saving, or they can say, oh, I want to actually stay around. And they can score their test whenever they're ready. If they forget a little bit about what they're supposed to do, maybe they're like, man, this isn't really working for me. I can't really remember how I'm supposed to answer. The instructions are up there as well. You can see here, it'll just say, don't forget, this is how you change your answers if you need to, and the student can then move on. So I'm going to actually return to the home page. I'm going to save without, I'm going to just save my experience. Now, let's say I go to my center here, and you can see I've got my 3 tests in progress. They can pick back up where they left off. They can also take the practice test pretty much as many times as they need to. So this can be used for comparing. It can be used for helping them see how they're growing. But they can take the tests on here as many times as they would like and can practice as much as they need to. Some of the questions that you might have about this particular database are a little bit hidden, but I'm going to show you where you can find it. It's under the help right here. It's up at the top. You're going to see the help option and then the FAQ. So you'll see here, it'll answer some tech questions like I forgot my password, how do I reset it? Then you've got the answer here. How do I change my username? And then how long are the tests? It'll tell you, each one varies. But then you've got ways of navigating that particular database. So if they see a learner mode, they can then explore. So it just really is a great place to get all the answers to your various questions. This is not only useful for tests, students can also look at tutorials as well as flashcards and ebooks. You can see here under the reading skills tutorial, I can open that up and then I can start my tutorial. And that is just a different kind of learning experience, but it's available to the student as they need it for whatever their needs might be. So it'll walk them through this tutorial and show them the different things that it will cover, and then they can start the pre-test and then work through the tutorial at their own pace. One thing that is really challenging with this particular database is that there is so much content, it can feel overwhelming. So if at any point you have questions or you're looking for something or your student is looking for something and you can't find it, be sure to reach out to the library because we want to help that student be successful and we want you to be successful as well. One of the things that we see a lot with students who use this particular database is that many of them may not be students yet. That is not uncommon. It just depends. Some students will be enrolled and they will be able to access this from their school account. So if they're off campus, for example, they will need to log into their portal account and then they'll be taken right to this database. But if they're not yet a student, then they can't log in the same ways. They won't have the credentials that they need to access this unless they come to campus and sit down in front of the computer anytime that they want to use this database, which it may not necessarily be convenient for that student. Working from home to access this account isn't going to be possible. So if you have a student who is not yet a student, maybe perhaps you're working with somebody who plans to be a student, who wants to be, but they're not yet enrolled, maybe they have to take a certain test or they need to pass a certain set of requirements before they get involved with the school, they still likely have access to this material. They just wouldn't get it through CCCC library. The best way for that student to be successful is a couple of options. If they were looking specifically for the TEAS guides, we do have the physical form of that at the library. They could come in, get a community card, and they could check out that physical form. But again, if they're wanting to take those practice tests that allow them to take it multiple times in a row, get all those tutorials, get all the information that Learning Express database offers, then we would encourage them, if they're not yet a student, to use their public library. And what's so great is that Lee, Harnett, Chatham, and Wake County Public Libraries all have access to the Learning Express resource. We love public libraries. They do wonderful work. And so if a student is not yet the student, they're not enrolled in classes, so they can't get a student ID, the public library has this resource. So if they have a public library card, they can then use the public library card to create an account and then use their materials from the comfort of their own home. Or if the public library is a little bit more convenient because it has a more of a local branch that they're close to, then they will have access to this material. If students or you really want to connect with your public library to get this material, but they are unsure about the steps in that process, by all means, reach out to the library. We want to make sure that they can get their library card so that they can be successful in accessing this material, whether it's through us or it's through a public library. If you have any questions, here's my contact information. There's my email and phone number, but students can also set up individual tutorials. There's a link for that there. They can visit the library as well. I've got our summer hours up here, but in the fall, we'll be back to our normal hours, which you can find on our website. By all means, if a student or if you or another faculty member or staff member wants to know how to use this database more, reach out to us. We'll be happy to provide a tutorial. You can even just drop by the library and let us know, and we'll be happy to help you.